Bad news, boys. The Disney Global Mega Corporation is in dire straits. They haven't put out a superhero movie this entire year, and profits are plummeting.
Oh, let me guess. The last season of Star Trek was a disaster. In order to save the company, they need you boys to create a blockbuster superhero movie.
That's exactly right, Ron.
Oh, wait, really?
What's our budget?
Oh, you won't be getting any money. Also, if the film isn't a huge success, you're all fired.
I thought the podcast being acquired by Disney was just a ploy by the SNK demon to trap us all in hell.
I don't remember that at all. Anyway, who cares about continuity when there's money to be made?
I thought you said we weren't getting paid.
That's right, you're not. I, however, will be paid handsomely. So don't let me down. Later, boys.
What do you think?
How the hell did you manage to make a full spandex suit in the last 20 seconds?
Why is it crotchless? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Retro Odyssey. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Matt and Steven.
Hello.
And I'm Brian, as usual. What have we all been up to this past month? I think we waited a little longer this time.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I've actually completed 2 games this month, which I never do. I never complete games, but I completed 2 games in September. So I started off the month with The Evil Within. I've had it since launch, but I've never really got that into it because I'd played Outlast and then I went into that, started playing that, and it was kind of like a stealthy hiding from bosses kind of thing, and I was like, I'm not really ready for more of that. So I kind of put it down and forgot about it, but it turns out that that's literally just like the first chapter. And after that, it turns into a better version of Resident Evil 4. And I really like Resident Evil 4. But The Evil Within, best way I can describe it is kind of like if Resident Evil was a Silent Hill game. Because it's got all that surreal weirdness and atmospheric stuff going on. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. Like very, very similar gameplay style to Resident Evil 4. And it's the same director as well, Shinji Mikami, so he's kind of allowed, I guess, to copy himself.
I've always heard that Evil Within was sort of the Resident Evil game people have wanted for a long time.
Yeah. Like I say, it does feel a hell of a lot like it. It's just a bit more weird and David Lynchy, kind of, for a better way to describe it. It is a lot of fun. I think it took me about 16 hours, something like that, to get through it. I did start playing the DLC as well, but the DLC actually is just hide from monsters and be all stealthy and stuff. So I didn't really get too much into that. But I am looking forward to getting the second one at some point and giving that a go. Also, I finally finished Final Fantasy 1 on the PS1.
Yay!
I loved it. I really did. I mean, I went through with a guide. You kind of have to with some of these games. I mean, there is some convoluted shit.
Yeah.
In that game, like there's this specific spot where you need to play the loot, and it's like you're not going to know that without a guide. And if you release this fairy in the wrong place, then I hope you've got a save file because you're not getting it back. It does have some weirdness, but yeah, I had a hell of a lot of fun with that. It's a really solid game, And I didn't run into the war mech, which you warned me about, Stephen.
Yeah.
I mean, I did actually make a save right before the part where it spawns, and I went back to it 5 times just to see if I could get it to spawn.
Still never showed up.
According to my guidebook, it's like a 1 in 64 chance of popping up.
Yeah, like it's really, really rare, but it's basically a death sentence.
Yeah.
That seems like such an odd, like, it would almost make more sense if it was like a triggered thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had certain items on you or you had defeated a certain enemy before that.
Yeah.
Or you were at a very certain level when you went there, so it was like a really hard fight, but not like you said, a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, you can trigger a super special boss. It's like, yeah, that would be neat. But it's just like, yeah, you might stumble across something that will just murder your ass.
Yeah.
Because it was the 1980s.
Yeah, I don't know. I was terrified when I was going through, and then when it didn't happen, I was like, huh? So then I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I was playing like on the NES version, I would have really, really not wanted it to show up because you can't save mid-dungeon on the NES, and you can on the PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, I still maintain that if someone wants to get the original experience, play the PlayStation version, because the NES version is just not worth playing anymore. Like, I still direct people to the PSP version or the Game Boy Advance, because I feel like those have enough improvements to warrant being played. It's just like I would say any version except the original NES is fine.
But with that done, my next one is going to be Final Fantasy X.
Excellent.
Which I've done an hour of, and there's already a couple of things that are annoying me about it. But I'll get over it.
It takes a little bit to get into the swing of it, and like, I mean, I'm sure you already know, but the cutscenes, they went kind of bananas in 10. Not even like the pre-rendered stuff. The pre-rendered stuff only shows up a few times. It's just when it does, it's good. You're going to be there a while.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I had issues with them not having button prompts, context-sensitive button prompts for certain things.
Yeah.
Like opening doors and stuff like that. I was like, is this a door? I don't know. Can I talk to this person? I don't know. You just go up to them and press X, and yes, turns out I can talk to them. And the fixed camera isn't great, but I'll get used to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and make sure you keep an eye out for those Albed primers, because a lot of them are in places where you can absolutely miss them, and they're gone for the rest of the run.
Yeah, I've got the first one that was on the ship with the guys who beat me up.
Oh, the first one you got was on the ship?
Yes.
And you've already missed one.
All right. Never mind.
Yeah, so that's the problem.
Well, I do want to go through it with my guide as well. I do have a guidebook. I literally just played like the first hour just to get a feel for it, so I might go back and start it again.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend playing with a strategy guide, because, you know, not only is there stuff you can miss, but the end of game stuff and the ultimate weapons, you really need a guide to kind of, you know, figure out how to proceed with all that. But, you know, come back and let us know how it turns out.
Oh yeah, we'll do it. It will probably be a while.
Oh, I'm sure it's quite a long game.
But yeah, that's all I've been playing this month. I was going to point out as well, to me, about 18 hours. I did play on easy mode, but I think like 17 hours, 50 minutes was my final time.
Which, I mean, it's, you know, as far as I'm concerned, any amount of time that you get through a Final Fantasy game is not a bad time. I mean, you know, I'm someone that in the PlayStation days, I'd usually max the clock out at 99.99. So
yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 13 took me 60 hours. So
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, what you guys been playing this month?
I got my hands on that Super Mario All-Stars 3D.
Oh, goody.
The night it came in, I actually got it a day early, which was neat. Like, it was supposed to release on, I don't know, Best Buy was supposed to, it was a guaranteed delivery on day of release, and it was actually ended up being a guaranteed delivery that afternoon before release. So I got home from work, and I sat down, and I beat it. Like, I beat Mario 64 in one sitting. And then a couple days later, I went back and got my other 50 stars. And I gotta say, it's not widescreen. That's fine. I think they did something, and it might have been because I don't remember the name of it, but it's the Japanese re-release where they added Rumble Pack feature. But I think they did a couple other things to the game, like made wall jumping just a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit easier.
They removed the ability to do the backwards long jump as well.
Yeah, like you can do backwards long jumps, but the glitch that allows for the infinite momentum gain, which allows you to stair skips, has been patched out. So you can just kiss 0, 1, and 16 star runs goodbye. Yeah. Anything less than 70 stars until someone figures out a new fucking an exploit. There you go. Until a new exploit is figured out. That's it. And I know they just discovered a new momentum one not too long ago, but it's basically taskbot only.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if anyone's going to bother because just play different versions.
Yeah, that's the thing, is there are different versions of the game. There's original. Most speedrunners don't. They don't really... Like, official speedrun records, they don't allow emulators because it's too easy to modify them. Mm-hmm. But like people who are trying to practice on a bigger TV, they'll probably be using emulators, and you can get perfect versions of that. I did notice. Now I don't know this about the this version of the game, but this is interesting for people who are speedrunning, and this game will be fine for 120 star, like 100% speedruns. Maybe I don't know what other momentum exploits they patched out, but one of the really famous, or rather infamous, moments in Mario 64 is Dire Dire Docks. When you come out of your little pipe from the main entrance and go into the Bowser sub area, into the dock area, the game starts rendering a ton of polygons all at once, mostly from the submarine, but also everything else. So unless you position the camera so it doesn't render stuff all at once, you get some really noticeable, like, slowdown, like really bad. And now since Mario 64 is at the point in speedrunning where that, like, tenths of seconds are everything.
Yeah.
To break records. That's always been really infamous. And even moving the camera out of the way only reduces the amount because it's a big area that it tries to load up. I got no slowdown. And I didn't even play with my camera. I just went right in and my game didn't slow down. Also, in a couple areas, there's one in Tick-Tock Clock. There's a couple boxes in Wet Dry World. You'll hit a coin box, and like 13 coins come out. And when it renders and when it starts generating all of those particle effects and bringing up the coin sprites, the game slows down a lot. Didn't happen. So I don't know if they went back and uncompiled the code and actually turned their optimizer on, like the team that did that a while back did, the fan team that did that, or if just the Japanese version of the game does that already, or maybe they just tweaked the emulator to take full fully access all the power of the Switch, and it literally just brute forces past all the rendering problems. In short, though, I'll still probably play my physical copy more, because I like my backwards long jumps. And I don't know, I just like playing on a CRT. I'm weird like that.
I don't have a CRT.
But I will tell you, I've been playing through Super Mario Sunshine, not nearly as fast. Oh, I mean, other than a couple annoying things, it is so much better.
Okay.
Being widescreen like that is amazing. I don't know, the game just feels really smooth and good. So I believe someone said that they tweaked it and you jump a little higher, and it does feel like it. I haven't played them back to back since you have my copy right now, Steven. Yeah. Which I'm not jonesing to get it back right now, but I was like, oh yeah, I'll compare these right now because I heard that and I didn't have it. So if you pick up Super Mario 3D, pop those both in and see if you jump higher.
What I'll do is I have footage of Sunshine on my hard drive currently. I'm going to record the 3D All-Stars stuff. So what I'll do is I'll just put video side by side.
There you go. Yeah, it just feels like a couple of the jumps are a little easier to make, especially when you're like chasing Shadow Mario all over the place and he's making super crazy jumps.
Yeah.
I also started up. I got like maybe a star or two into Galaxy, and I can tell.
Galaxy.
I mean, it's great. Galaxy is great. I know exactly why Galaxy 2 is not on there, and honestly, why maybe Galaxy. Like, thank God Galaxy doesn't have a lot of pointy stuff.
Yeah.
Because using the gyro to point the little star pointer all over, because you shoot stuff with the star bits and you collect it with the pointer. It works. That's all it does.
Yeah, it was a neat little thing for when you're playing it on the Wii, but it's not necessary.
Well, and that's the thing is like there's a couple areas where it's like, oh yeah, you point at the your little star booster to get grabbed and pulled up to it, and then you give it a shake or you smash X or whatever.
Right.
But even when it's like, okay, here's a spot where you have to use your little star grabber, it feels awkward as hell. Now, I'm not playing with the Joy-Cons. The next time I fire up Galaxy, I'm going to pull out the Joy-Cons and see if it mimics the Wiimote a little bit better, like just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I took notice that using the point and aim with my Joy-Con or my Pro Controller, it felt like it was falling off center constantly. So what was definitely centered, and there's a very quick, I think it's right bumper. Wherever you're at, that centers the pointer. And it's instant. But it felt like it was constantly going off center.
Okay.
Like it was decalibrating.
Weird.
And if there was a game that required lots and lots of pointing just to play the game, it would be frustrating as hell.
Would that game be Metroid Prime 3?
They would have to complete... Well, the thing is, with Metroid Prime 3, there's not so much point... Like, that type of pointing could easily be converted into a twin stick.
Right.
But, like, I almost wish the pointer in Super Mario Galaxy... I almost wish that they had just put the pointer on the right stick.
Because we didn't have a stick back then anyway, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I will probably end up getting it at some point. It's on the list of things that I would like to get. But it's not necessarily a priority. So maybe like end of the year.
Yeah. And apparently like Walmart right now just has copies of Super Mario 3D World. Or not 3D World, Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
I went to Walmart last week and they had a bunch. Amazon has stock right now. Yeah, it's, one of those things that I'm just like, okay, fine.
You've got to get it soon though, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing.
Like right now, if you win the lottery, a small lottery like a scratch, a scratch ticket or something like that, and come up with a few $100, your best investment right now would probably be like 10 copies of buy 10 copies of 3D All Stars and hold on to them wrapped until about 3 years from now when they're suddenly $160 a pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to bring this up in the news section, but since we're talking about it, might as well bring it up now. You've probably heard about the limited availability of this collection. They're even taking it off digital as well from March, and it's an anti-consumer move at the end of the day. It's probably a good business move, but it is a big anti-consumer move. And
it's a good short-term business move. Like, as far as short-term business goes, now the only thing I can think of that they might be doing, like, to spin this around is come March, they're just going to be like, by the way, we're putting these games up on the online. Like, you can just download and play these games as long as you have Nintendo Online.
Right.
Like, it's going to go free-to-play. Actually owning the collection is something for a collector.
Mm-hmm.
Which might actually be the case, but the fact that we don't know that yet is a big part of the problem.
Yeah.
People don't know if it's going to completely go away after March. People don't know if they're going to be able to play these remastered versions like after that point if they don't buy it by by the time it goes off sale.
Yeah.
And they might be able to, but we don't know. It's like £50 in the UK. If it was £30 and not limited, I'd get it.
Mm.
But as it stands, you know, with it being limited, I just it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I do have like complete in-box versions of all 3 games on the original systems that they were released on. So
yeah,
I do have the games, but I would have paid £10 each for remastered versions.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing here is these games this collection was pitched for the collector, hardcore. Nintendo knew exactly what they were doing, but like if you have the hardware, you can find these games for not terribly expensive. Actually, Mario 64 apparently just jumped in price really badly,
and Sunshine, at least when I was looking for it, was ridiculous.
Sunshine was like $60-$70, wasn't it?
Yeah. Which is why you sent me your copy, because I did not have that money to spend.
I might have to have a look at that because I don't actually like Sunshine.
Renewed on Amazon, $159.
Okay, so yeah, all these games apparently have doubled in price, because I remember a few months ago I found a loose copy of Mario 64 for $30.
$60 minimum for Sunshine on Amazon.
Yeah. Mario 64 was $30. Now it's like $60 at my local vintage stock. So I bet Galaxy has jumped in price too, because there's suddenly an increased interest in these games.
Yeah. Super Mario Galaxy renewed, $32.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, there's one for $25.
Yeah, $10 used on Amazon. So, yeah, Galaxy hasn't spiked too much, but Galaxy is also the one least changed from the new version.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine the biggest price hike coming in March.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be insane. Like, I honestly, I'm not into scalping, but I might grab another copy or 2 of this game. Worst case scenario is I can then give it to some people as gifts who weren't able to get it.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea.
Or, if everybody I know has gotten one, then it'd be like, well, cool, now I can flip these.
Yep. So local game store, Galaxy is $20. Sunshine is $60. And real quick for 64. And by the way, at this shop, all of these, all the games that are GameCube and above are complete box and artwork. The cartridge games could be loose, but anything that came with a case is at this store is complete in case.
They don't do the whole you bought it in a sleeve.
Yeah, they
I hate that.
Yeah, they generally do not buy games without a case, which I really like because, I do not like having games without cases.
My Mario 64 is box complete. There's a slight bit of water damage to the case, so it's not mint, but it is generally intact.
Right. I do not have the box because I don't have any of my N64 boxes, but I mean, I've talked about it on the show before. I will be casing all of my N64 games in the cases from RetroGameCases.com.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
But if you're listening,
let's talk.
Let's talk.
I give you guys a lot of business. Let's talk.
I actually, my friend just bought me Star Fox 64 to add to my collection, and on payday I got to go and order up another case. So
yeah, these games have shot up in price. I would imagine the 64 version, especially because of the Shindao version being the one in the collection.
Yeah.
What else have I played this month? I've been playing Among Us a lot, which is not retro, even remotely, and it's not even new. It's was actually released back in 2018.
Yeah.
By Innersloth, and it's a space whodunit. That's what it is. It's interactive space Clue.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a lot of fun. It's $5 on Steam. It's free on iOS, and you can pay like $2 or $3 to pull the ads, the really, really short ads that pop up between rounds. And yeah, you have tasks to do. You run around and do tasks. You have a couple imposters who are trying to wipe out the entire crew. And as you find bodies, you got to figure out who the imposters are and get them off the ship. If the crew gets too low with imposters, basically you have to have a 1-to-1 ratio of imposters and crew members. Then the imposters win. If the imposters do a sabotage and the sabotage isn't solved and the ship fails, then the imposters win, and the crew wins if you eject everybody. And I'm real sad that I didn't know about this game until this year. I don't know what happened. It's a lot of fun.
Mm.
I play almost a round every single day, at least a round every single day. Because it takes 5 minutes, sometimes less.
Mm.
So, wholly recommend. That's all I got to say about that. I wholly recommend it.
Yeah, I probably won't play it. I just, some of the memes are good. But yeah, I'm too busy with other stuff. Which, speaking of stuff I'm busy with, so I don't remember if I had jumped back into Destiny 2 when we last recorded.
No, I think you said you were gonna. I think you played a little bit, but you're like, I'm gonna probably get back into Destiny 2, and that was it.
Yeah, so I've done that. And one of the groups I'm in on Facebook started up a clan, so I joined that. And of course, 90% of them are on PS4, so I was like, fine, I'll download the base game on PS4. And been playing a significant amount of Destiny. I also made the critical mistake of watching a whole bunch of content about Legend of Dragoon, the old PS1 game, and ended up starting that. So I've been working through that for the past month. I won't really go too much into it because shock and surprise, we're gonna play it on the podcast one day. But it's basically a Final Fantasy type game made by Sony, on the PS1. That's really all you need to know at this point. The other thing I've been doing is I picked up Final Fantasy VII Remake because I found a copy on Amazon for like $40. And I'd just like to say real quick, audience, you've heard me say, probably on this very show, that I did not want Final Fantasy VII Remake to exist. I do not hold that opinion anymore. This is one of the best games I've ever played.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, so number one, as a fan of music, the music in this is outstanding because the music in 7 was really good and they just did better arrangements on this version. The nostalgia pops are all there, and the things they have done to this game are exactly what I would have wanted to see out of a remake if I had wanted it to exist in the first place. It's not just a prettied up version of the original game, which is what the fanboys wanted. It doesn't replace the original Final Fantasy VII in the Final Fantasy VII universe. It's an addition to it. So it has been blowing my mind how much I'm enjoying this game, and I didn't want it to exist in the first place. I thought this was going to be pure fan service, and Tetsuya Nomura is a madman who, in the process of potentially pissing off the people that really wanted this, made the perfect game for me. and the funny thing is, the demo version that they released, that free demo you can download on the PS4, you play through the first mission and it's basically exactly what people expected. It's just a prettied up, slightly expanded version of the original mission from the PS1. Immediately after that, I'm talking 2 minutes after that demo ends, things start changing. So they knew damn good and well what they were doing by releasing that demo. They were baiting all of the people that just wanted a prettied up version and then pulled the rug out from under them after they had their money. It is insane, and I love it, and I did not expect to.
I've been keeping my eye on the prices. As soon as it hits, I think below £30, for me, I'm going to pick that up.
I will say, you played Final Fantasy VII, didn't you?
I've only played the first couple of hours.
Okay, so what I would recommend is work Final Fantasy VII into your list somewhere and play through the entirety of it first,
Oh yeah,
Be-
yeah.
Because, like I said, this doesn't replace Final Fantasy VII. This is an addition to the Final Fantasy VII collection, story, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of things. So they've presented it like this could be your first Final Fantasy VII experience, but a lot of it hits harder and the nostalgia pops are better if you've played the original.
It is on my list. Probably after 10, I might jump down to 7.
And of course, I'm sure I've said before, if you do play 7, actually you have the PS1 version, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I've got the PS1 physical, and I've got the remastered PS4 version digital.
Okay, so yeah, I would suggest the PS4 version because that has the quote unquote cheats that really make the game easier to get through.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I've been doing is I've, been taking huge nostalgia trips with Legend of Dragoon and Final Fantasy VII, just in different formats, but it's been real good, y'all. Because Legend of Dragoon is one of my favorite RPGs, especially on the PS1, and Final Fantasy VII Remake is just so good. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'd been looking into it. I heard it was pretty good, but I didn't realize if you spin around lover of RPGs and then really just praise the shit out of it.
Yeah. It is not just a prettied up version like people were expecting. It is what I wanted, which is basically not that. It does unique things. And I don't want to get spoilery with it, but it makes changes to make this a unique experience, to make this worth playing, even if you've already seen all of Final Fantasy VII's content.
Right.
Also, that dancing minigame looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm right at the point where I should be getting to that here soon, so I'm looking forward to it.
That looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I'm only 17 hours in. So, I haven't even seen half the game, and I'm this excited.
I'm looking forward to it whenever I do get to play it, which is probably years in advance.
I might come back in with a little bit of an update. I might just wait until we play something else Final Fantasy VII related, because let's be honest, there's a lot of it.
They've stated that it was going to be a 2-part, but I am curious how they will cram the rest of the game on there. I know there's a lot of superfluous shit in Final Fantasy VII that they can trim. That's, it's extra, but at the same time,
This is my concern with it is I don't know how you go as in depth as they have with this one and contain the rest of the game into a single game. I think you need 3 parts minimum, preferably more.
Well, they'll just pull a Valve. So what you'll have is Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, and then you'll have Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a Part 2. It'll never be finished.
Yeah.
It'll be on the PS6 exclusive. Speaking of Final Fantasy, can roll on into the news here. I believe they have announced Final Fantasy 16.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, the trailer is fantastic.
Oh, it's gonna be so good.
I almost feel after seeing some of these trailers and stuff that they're making games, and it's fine that they're making games. A lot of people enjoy them. Obviously, not my cup of tea, but you two love the shit out of them. And all I really wonder on a lot of these things is they should just go into making movies. They've made a couple of them. They're basically movie quality at this point.
Yeah.
The trouble is the movies that they have made aren't movie quality because they're shit. Like The Spirits Within is bollocks.
Okay, Spirits Within is really bad.
Yeah. Spirits Within is really bad. I think Advent Children was acceptable. And I've heard Kingsglaive was okay.
I have Kingsglaive. I've not watched it.
Yeah, so I mean, Advent Children is, I think, acceptable. I think it's a good enough watch. But I don't know. 16, I'm very excited for, especially because isn't it being headed up by the guy that basically saved 14?
Yeah, Naoki Yoshida, who is the producer and director of 14, is going to be the producer of 16. And he is basically the reason that I've got like so much faith in 16. Because he did fantastic things with 14. He's still doing fantastic things with that. Mm-hmm. And he has a good team behind him. In fact, Final Fantasy 16 is probably the reason that we're not going to get Dragon's Dogma 2. Because the fellow who was going to be doing Dragon's Dogma 2 after Devil May Cry 5 jumped ship to Square and is now on the 16 team.
Well then.
So we might not be getting Dragon's Dogma 2 because of Square, unless they get someone else to do it.
You know what? If we get a top tier level Final Fantasy, I am willing to accept that.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
One of the things people are excited about is this game looks to very much be returning to the traditional fantasy setting. It's one of those things they do every so often, and it usually pays off. Like, 9 went back to the traditional fantasy setting after 2 futuristic ones and was really good. 14 kind of did, but 14 was also an MMO and has the airships and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, 14 has got a lot of futuristic machinery stuff going on in it.
Mostly because they're porting those in from previous games.
Oh, yeah.
But so the jump to the standard fantasy setting, has potential. Looks to be a good team behind it. Not happy that it's exclusive to play PS5 for 6 months. I think it's full exclusive for 6 months and console exclusive for 12 months. So effectively PS5 exclusive for 12 months for me. So not happy about that, but I can live with it.
Yeah, it does. It does look like it's going to be a really dark story as well. The trailer opens with like the Final Fantasy theme, but in a minor key. Mm-hmm. It sounds like really sad. And there's this whole thing with seemingly children can act as the summons for these elemental beings, like. This little kid is Phoenix, and there's this other team which is seemingly in a different time period, like in the future, that's trying to kill Shiva's summon. And
I think Ifrit shows up too.
Oh yeah, there is like a big fight seemingly between Ifrit and Phoenix. Yeah, it just looks fantastic. Like Shiva looks fantastic, Ifrit looks fantastic. Titan, he just looks like a rock man, but what are you going to do with Titan, really?
I mean, it's better than he looked in Final Fantasy VII.
I've not seen how he looks in it.
He was just a big muscly dude in Final Fantasy VII. And the other thing is, it looks like, I mean, we didn't see gameplay, but it looks like they're pretty far along in it. And aren't they saying it's going to come out next year?
I'm not sure. I mean,
oh no, okay, they haven't announced a release date, but more information is coming in 2021. So,
yeah, I can't imagine it'll be next year. I think it will be 2022.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense. I know I've seen people talking about it coming out next year, and I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, that would make more sense.
Yeah, that I am holding off on buying a PS5 until that game comes out.
Yeah, that if any game could make me buy the PS5, it would be that one. And I say that as someone who loved Marvel Spider-Man until I got to the DLC and would love to have more of it, but even that wouldn't get me to buy a PS5 early. Final Fantasy 16 could, if it's good.
Well, also news-wise, I mean, we've gone through all the Mario shit, which is how I've phrased it in like the little news list I've got.
Shit is right.
This is a weird one, which I kind of like found out myself. We mentioned that the Final Fantasy Legends collection is coming out on December the 15th.
Yes.
You can pre-order it now, which I have done on the Switch, and weirdly, it actually preloads the game now. Like, it is sitting there on my Switch, downloaded and installed for 3 months. Like, why can they not release the game? It is, like, literally right there.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't unlock until December 15th. That's weird.
And see, the thing is, I don't know whether to yell at Square or Nintendo for this, because both of them are equally likely to pull something.
Yeah, because we discussed it on our Discord a little bit as well. The Final Fantasy Legends collection it's not like it's going to be a big holiday seller.
Nope.
You know, it is very niche. So it's not like they're pinning their holiday hopes on this game. So why, if it is ready and available, why wait until December 15th? It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't pre-ordered it. I will pre-order it at some point. Just, I still have till December, so I'm just going to wait probably till next month.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird that it's preloading. Like, I don't know.
Sticking with re-releases of older games, kind of a surprise release, Konami have just decided to put a bunch of games on GOG.com.
Yeah, that's super
for the PC.
weird.
Yeah, just kind of out of nowhere. So you've got the first 3 Metal Gear games. So you've got Metal Gear, Metal Gear Solid, and Metal Gear Solid 2. Those are £4.79 for Metal Gear, $7.19 for the other 2. And you have the Konami Collector's Series, Castlevania and Contra, both in one collection. You have the first 3 Castlevania games. Well, they're Castlevania 1, 2, and 3. And you have Contra and Super C. And that's £4.79. So you are getting 5 games there for £4.79, which is quite a good deal. Although it should be pointed out that the console Castlevania and Contra collections, which are more expensive, do have a lot more in it. And they do have like regional variants, like the Probotector versions of Contra and like Japanese versions of Castlevania games and stuff like that. But if you are just after kind of like the core games, then that's a really good buy for PC.
Yeah.
So they've released those, and they've also released Silent Hill 4, The Room. Again, that's £7.19. And the entire comment section is people asking for Silent Hill 2 and 3. But Konami lost the source code for that, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
I still don't know how you lose a source code.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, rumor was that Square had lost Final Fantasy VIII source code for a while there. Maybe they did. I don't know. But we got the remake, the remaster, so who cares at this point? Which, from what I understand, the Final Fantasy VIII remaster was significantly better than the Silent Hill HD remasters. So I guess as long as that version turned out good, it's all good.
Yeah, that was... I don't like thinking about that.
That was painful for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, like, Silent Hill 2 is my favorite video game of all time, and
they soiled it. Soiled it.
Yeah, I can't play in HD. I don't have a PS3 that can play PS2 games, so I can't play it via HDMI.
I think the closest you could get would be the Xbox version on a 360.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's how I played it. I'm very surprised it wasn't rolled into backwards compatibility for Xbox. I am willing to bet that's a Konami problem, that Konami has said no.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, well, yeah, because they probably wanted to sell the HD collection, didn't they?
Probably.
But anyway, before I start to cry, let's move on from that. We have another kind of out of the blue release. The Quake soundtrack by Nine Inch Nails got a remastered vinyl release last month, which it is said on the Nine Inch Nails official site, coming soon for about 2.5 years. this soundtrack, and they finally released it. And it was expensive. It was like £40. But I bought it because I'm like a big Nine Inch Nails fan, and I buy all the releases on vinyl. And I now have it, and it sounds fantastic, and it's beautiful, and I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to pick it up. It'll look real good sitting next to my Doom collection.
I probably will not, because, I mean, being perfectly honest, the only video game soundtracks that so I do own a music CD from Skyward Sword because I got that version of it. But the only video game soundtracks I'm really itching to own are Final Fantasy, and that's all on. I'm pretty sure that's all on Spotify now, so I can just listen to it whenever I want.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to be completely honest, the Quake soundtrack as a whole is very atmospheric. Most of the soundtrack isn't even. It's hard to call it music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of ambient. You have like a really heavy title track. The rest of it is mostly ambient and creepy and stuff.
Very experimental.
Right.
If you had to put into a genre, it would be experimental.
Nine Inch Nails has always kind of like been in that kind of space anyway.
Mm-hmm. That super industrial. I did mention it on the Discord, but yeah, I went back and listened to the opening track, the remaster opening track again, and it's just that is where Mick Gordon's inspiration came from for Doom 2016.
Yeah, you can hear it in that opening riff, like do 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 do. Yeah,
it's this very heavy electronic industrial non-melodic metal where it doesn't hold to like having a tune. It's basically we found a really badass riff and now we're going to build all around that.
Right.
And yeah, it's super intense, but listening, I'm just like, oh yeah, this is like Mick Gordon listened to this and went, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a smart move. But I'll probably pick it up. Plus the album art's it's just the Quake symbol on black. It's nice and ominous like Quake feels.
I did take a few pictures of the whole package as well. If you head on over to our Facebook page, facebook.com Retro Odyssey Podcast, there are a few pictures of it there. I was going to do a video unboxing, but I was quite ill that week, so I just took pictures instead.
Do what you got to do.
But yeah, we should definitely cover Quake at some point. I did actually go back and stream it for about an hour, just kind of like because I got the soundtrack and I thought, you know what, I kind of want to play Quake, so I did a quick stream of it, which is also, I believe, on the Facebook page, so have a look at that. There's one more piece of news I'm probably going to skip over quite quickly because we don't know a hell of a lot about it, but there is a new Resident Evil Netflix show coming called Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. This isn't the live-action one that people are talking about with Wesker's children, which sounds dumb. This is one of the animated ones, and the animated ones are, in my opinion, usually pretty good. And this is going to be 8 one-hour episodes, so it's going to be like a quite chunky thing. And not entirely sure where it's going to be set. I mean, all of the animated Resident Evil stuff is canon, so it will fill in some gaps somewhere, but the trailer shows Claire and Leon, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be good. That's coming next year.
Nice.
The
only other thing that might be worth mentioning is the video game version of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, that one that notoriously disappeared after the contract was up.
Yeah.
Is coming back holiday this year for Switch, Xbox One, and PS4.
Is it the same game?
Or
they remake the game for some reason?
Looks like it's the same game with the subtitle Complete Edition thrown on there.
Okay.
So yeah, looks like it's the same thing. But as I'm sure we'll get into later here, There's no telling how long it will still be up this time around. So
It's actually funny because I wasn't thinking about it. I wouldn't have been like on my mind at all. Except Scott the Woz just did a video a while back. I don't think it's super new. Just talking about basically lost video game titles.
Mhm.
And he brought up basically how fleeting digital release only can be. And he mentioned Scott Pilgrim, the video game.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm still salty about PT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he brought that up too.
I will never be able to play that.
It's a shame because I don't like horror games. That was really good as far as horror games go, and it was almost not a game. It was barely a game.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like a puzzle thing that you've got to work out.
I mean, you can play a cheap knockoff of it in Layers of Fear, but
And Layers of Fear is decent,
yeah, it's okay.
but it's not PT.
It's very clearly aping PT,
Yeah.
and which of course I didn't notice when I played it because I hadn't looked at PT, and then I saw a thing showing, basically here's all the shit they pulled. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to that topic for one of the games later on, but just want to rattle off the October game releases really quick. There's nothing really retro coming out, but there are sequels to like retro franchises. So you have Ys Origin, which just came out October 1st, Crash Bandicoot 4, which came out October 2nd, so just a couple of days ago. Baldur's Gate 3, October the 6th. Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. Oh, that's actually just some DLC. All Hallows Eve skin pack, which is probably way overpriced. I have no idea how much it costs. I'm just assuming that it's going to be expensive because video games. We have the new version of Mario Kart, which we haven't spoken about, but you've probably seen trailers of. It's basically you have like an actual kart racer that you drive around your house. That's coming out October 16th.
Yeah.
That looks like it's about it, actually. Oh, we've got Pikmin 3 Deluxe coming to the
30th.
Switch on October the 30th.
There's some other stuff like Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition coming out. And I don't know how updated this list is, but Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix. I'm pretty sure the original Kart Racers was old enough to be retro. But yeah, like not a ton. I mean, there's a few interesting things coming out this month. Let's see. In terms of not retro stuff, there's like DLC for Pokemon, new Amnesia game, Watch Dogs Legion, which whatever. Star Wars Squadrons just came out, I think. The only one I really care about is the next Dark Pictures anthology, Little Hope, is coming out on the 30th.
Yeah, me too.
Very excited for that. Have already placed my pre-order.
Yeah, I'll be getting that as well for PS4.
I recommend pre-ordering because then you get access to the curator's cut early.
I'll have to do that.
Yeah, because those games are real good, y'all. Like, we can't talk about them as podcast topics for quite a while, but they're real good.
Got releases now. Let's talk about some release anniversaries. October 1st, I guess that's now a couple days ago, the Game Gear Color. The Game Gear was already color.
What?
Yeah. There wasn't a black and white version of the Game Gear.
Well, apparently in Japan it was called the Game Gear Color.
Okay.
That turned 30. Time Crisis has turned 25.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the game's that old, but it sure is. Skies of Arcadia turned 20, Dreamcast game. Secret of Monkey Island.
Oh, yes.
Turns 30 on the 15th.
Nice. We got to cover that at some point.
Does this qualify? Yeah, that's... that would be... Would that be?
Secret of Monkey Island came out in
You just said 30 years ago, so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that counts as retro.
That's PC, but it's retro. Shadow of the Colossus turned 15. Fear turned 15. Fear was a good game.
It was.
Time Splitters turned 20. Or is turning 20. It's this month. It's all this month. The most important Dance Dance Revolution Mario mix has turned 15.
That was actually a pretty good game.
GTA Liberty City Stories turns 15. Mega Man Legends turns 20. Spyro Year of the Dragon turns 20. Civilization 4 is turned 15. Wow. Actually, that might not be... That is probably just barely brushing on retro at this point.
Yeah.
That's probably right. I'm not sure if that... I don't know, it's always hard to tell with PC games. What else we got going on here? Tekken Tag Tournament, for those who like Tekken, turned 20. And actually, we covered this. SSX turned 20 as well. A lot of hard-hitting anniversaries this year, or this month.
Oh, I see where the confusion came from. Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition came out in 2009.
There you go.
That's where because I knew Monkey Island came out in 1990 because we had talked about games that came out the year we were born, and Monkey Island was what I was talking about. But yeah, the Monkey Island games are good. Like, you know, classic point and click adventure nonsense. But yeah,
they're solid. If we're going to tidy that up, we can take a quick break and move on into the main topic for this month.
All right.
I'm the best at what I do.
All right, now into the main event. As you may have gathered from the startup, our focus is Marvel games. And there's been a lot of superhero games. There's been a lot of Marvel games. There's lots of them. And they're still making them.
I mean, I think like the first, official, Marvel licensed video game was, I think that the first licensed comic book video game was a Spider-Man game on the Atari, or at least as far as consoles are concerned.
Probably, and I wouldn't be surprised if you got even older. Well, I mean, the Atari is pretty old, but I wouldn't be surprised if you had a whole bunch that were on like the ZX Spectrum and Commodore and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are a bunch.
And a lot of them have been bad. Now, we've gotten some really golden ones, like earlier on in the news, we mentioned the new Spider-Man game. I haven't played it, but I've heard it's absolutely excellent.
It is incredible until you get to the DLC. The DLC ruins a perfect game.
And we've mentioned, like, Spider-Man on the PlayStation 64, just Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 is legendary. Spider-Man, the movie. Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game.
The game, yeah.
Is legendary. Ultimate Spider-Man is excellent.
Spider-Man Web of Shadows was great.
We had, back in the day, X-Men
Legends.
Was it X-Men Legends?
I mean, that's one of them.
That was one of the ones that I think it released on Xbox or Xbox. Anyway, it was from it got, like, the games started getting pulled from store shelves, and you couldn't get it anymore because, like, the company, I think it was THQ, the company was dissolved, and like there was something about the game where like there was a lawsuit. I don't know, but the game was excellent. The game was super duper good. And then, but the problem is in the early years of Marvel games and superhero games as a whole, but Marvel got a lot of really bad ones. Because Marvel would have been at its peak I would say that Marvel was at its peak in media anyway in the 90s. Other than now, because now there's been like 20 movies. But if we go back to the 90s, Marvel was peaking as far as like cartoons and toys and video games were starting to slam out. I mean, we had the legendary now X-Men animated series that is still good to this day.
The theme song for that is excellent.
Oh, it slaps. And the whole show is good. It doesn't handle itself like a kid show, much like the Batman animated series, it's like, oh yeah, it's superheroes and cartoons, but they definitely roll in with a lot more heavy tones, and they take it seriously. Versus we've had a lot of like other bad shows that, like, I don't know, there was the whole Marvel, like the Young Avengers a few years ago that was just absolute ball. It was so bad.
I've never really watched much Marvel TV stuff at all. I've always been more kind of like a DC guy, and I've watched a lot of DC stuff, but outside of the movies, I've never really engaged much with Marvel.
Yeah, they've had a bad track record. Both. They've had bad history and a bad track record. There in like the 2000s got pretty lousy. DC had that shit on lock. But in the 90s, they were popping. Except in the video games. And willing to bet anybody listening to this has also gone and they've watched The Angry Video Game Nerd. And he's gone on a tirade about this. And our first focus game is part of this. It's LJN.
Yep.
They developed a lot of bad games. They developed a lot of superhero games, and they developed a large, like they scooped up all of the Marvel rights to make video games during the 90s. Or the early 90s, like during the Super Nintendo era, like they were developing all of those Super Nintendo games.
They had a hell of a lot of licensed properties.
I don't know how they got them, but they were just snatching up everything and then just churning out digital bullshit.
So I was largely unaware of who LJN was, because I mean, at the time that I originally played this game, I didn't pay attention to that kind of thing. But like when you guys have talked about him, it's like, oh, okay, so it's one of those.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the game that we're on about, what is it called? It's got a really convoluted title.
It is. I think this is the longest title of any game that we've highlighted on this show so far. It is Spider-Man and X-Men, or is it the X-Men? Is it Spider-Man and the X-Men?
Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I decided rather than emulate it, I'll try and pick up a physical copy, and I managed to get myself an NTSC copy of the SNES cartridge, and I was looking forward to it until I got it out of the pack, and I saw that LJN logo, and I was like, oh no. I thought this is going to be a whole thing, isn't it? So I played it for a bit, and that made me very sad. Because it is absolutely terrible. You start off with Spider-Man, and because of some convoluted shit, he has to save the X-Men, and there's all these bombs that you've got to go around and deactivate in order. He doesn't say why you got to do it in order, but and it's just some terrible platforming. The web swinging feels really bad. You're fighting these robots which do a hell of a lot of damage to you. Very, very difficult to dodge attacks from them. And it is just a miserable time.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I emulated. It's bad. I don't know why everything the game does feels subpar. The web swinging is pretty straightforward and it feels bad. Like Spider-Man does not move very fast, but he looks like he is putting every last ounce of his effort into running.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is really, I mean, I don't know if you pay attention to that running animation, but he is really hoofing it. And you're just kind of moving along. Thankfully, wall crawling is pretty straightforward.
I would say the wall crawling is broken. If you jump anywhere within kind of like 5 feet of a wall, you'll just be magnetized to it. And it's like, if you want to jump around, there's one bit where you're going down a shaft and you have to get through this small gap where a robot's firing at you. And it took me so long because every time I tried to jump into this gap, I just ended up clinging to the wall on the other side. And I don't know if there's some kind of like magnet in these walls. There's kind of like
Spider
dragging
magnets.
Spider-Man. Yeah, spider magnets that just attract him because he fucking loves those walls.
It's a very clunky game. Once you get past the deactivate the bombs, connect the dots, which was bullshit. Not because it was bad, but it's like, why do you have to do them in order? Because the game says you have to do them in order. And fuck you. Once you get through, it's not that hard of a level once you kind of get used to how it's flowing. It's a very, very boring and anger-inducing level because it takes so long to chonk through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything just feels like it takes forever because it's like, yeah, go touch the bomb, okay. Go find the next bomb. Thankfully, your spider sense goes off and it points you to the next bomb you need to go to when you get kind of close to it. So you're never lost. You're not running around going, oh shit, where's the last bomb? Where's the last bomb?
Yeah.
Why can't I just leave? It's the levels that follow. Once you finish up that level, you go through, and Arcade spouts some bullshit about you of how, haha, you've fallen right into my trap, and now you have to play my game. Okay, that's fine. He's such a B-rated villain anyway. I don't know why they went with him, but whatever. Maybe it's because...
Well, it's because they're specifically based on 3 particular issues of Uncanny X-Men.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Still, kind of weird. Like, there's a lot of good story arcs, and they went with Arcade. I'm not mad about it.
I think they probably wanted to get the word arcade in there as well. Just so people thought it was like an arcade conversion, because I didn't know who Arcade was. I didn't know that was a Marvel character. I thought, from the title, that this was an arcade conversion.
Okay, so, funny. I thought the same thing. I thought that this was going to be a port and redux, now including Spider-Man, of the infamous X-Men arcade game.
So I guess this is where I out myself as a massive fucking nerd. I knew who Arcade was.
Well, that's the thing is I knew who Arcade was, but like the X-Men the arcade game is like legendary because I believe it's borderline impossible to beat.
Yeah, it is.
Like, is it actually impossible to beat, or is it virtually impossible to beat?
I think it's just super, super hard, and you've got to be rich as fuck to be able to get through.
This is a battle. Like, this puts Battletoads to shame hard.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say it's one of those. It's more like the Simpsons arcade game where there's enough that it's going to be hard to get through, but I don't think there's anything Battletoads speeder bike levels. It's just that there's so much game to get through that you're not likely to get through without dropping a bunch of money into it. There is one of the cabinets floating around Charlotte. It was at one of our barcades that has now closed, so I don't know its exact location at this time, but there is one in Charlotte. I just don't know where it is at this moment.
But anyway, having been familiar enough with the existence of that game and its infamy, I just assumed that this was going to be a conversion of that. I actually don't know which game released when. I've played the X-Men arcade game before. It is balls to the wall hard, but yeah, it's super fucking hard. Like it's fine. It's classic. It's classic arcade bullshit. I thought this was going to be a conversion of that. That's what I really thought. This was going to be a weird port remaster follow up to that. Hence, Arcade's Revenge. That's not what we got. I'm sad that it wasn't what we got.
So my experience with this is kind of interesting because I first played this back in, I want to say like 96, 97-ish, maybe 98, with my dad. And we picked it up because he and I are both big fans of Spider-Man and also we like the X-Men. So we saw this game and we're like, oh, let's get this and try it out. And it was way, way too hard for a sub 10-year-old to get through. And turns out it's way, way too hard for a 30-year-old to get through.
Well, it's just because the game is unfair.
Yeah.
Those robots in the first level do a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah, they'll fuck you up. The whole game will fuck you up.
Yeah.
And
I was
laugh about it.
As a kid. Yeah. I was crushed as a kid when I couldn't get through it. I feel less bad about that now that I still can't get through it.
Yeah. So you get to the first level with the bombs, and then after that, this was kind of neat, was you get to choose what levels you're going to do next. And you have 5 different characters to pump through levels with. You can choose a Spider-Man level, you can choose a Storm level, you can choose a Gambit level, you can choose a Cyclops level, and I don't remember who the
Wolverine.
Wolverine. Oh yeah, Wolverine. That's how forgettable this game is. And Wolverine. And all of the levels are like, and each one has a couple, like 2 or 3 levels with them. But all of them are just brutal. Just unforgivingly, brutally hard.
Yeah.
And for bullshit reasons. Cyclops has a lot of death traps. He's not bad to play. He shoots laser beams. He can kick and punch stuff. That's fine. But there's fall traps. There's minecarts and shit. And you die if you hit the trap because it's electrified. So you're dead.
And you have to hit that minecart dead center.
Yeah, you can't just barely. There's a lot of platforming that fucks you up like that. Like the lip detection, the ledge detection is really, really bad in the game, just as a whole. Except for when you're, like Matt pointed out, when you're climbing a wall and trying to jump through an opening, then you're just all over the walls. Like you can tell this was not they didn't take a long time to develop this because that sort of stuff would have been refined. Storm's levels. Do you swim around? You'd think Storm's levels would have been like some crazy like bullet hell shit because it's Storm, but it starts out with a fucking Donkey Kong aquatic level
with an air supply.
And you shoot lightning bolts,
and it's just it's infuriating.
It's terrible. Yeah, okay, so like the whole. Like, in Sonic 2, when you're underwater and you start running out of breath because you have a timer going, and then you hit that last 15 seconds or whatever, it starts counting down, or 20, that's the entirety of whenever your head's not above water. And you can go and get breath, but that's just the entirety of that level.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it. I didn't finish any single one of the levels. I just found out that there's more levels after these.
Yeah, in the past, I have gotten to the second stage of some characters. I did not on this run because it, like as soon as I jumped back in, I remembered how frustrating and how annoying this game was, and I stopped.
You started having flashbacks.
I started having flashbacks. So, yeah, like I still own a cartridge of this from not that original cartridge I got with my dad, but another one I picked up later. And it's so annoying. The artwork looks good, like the cover art looks pretty good, but the game is crap.
Well, the game itself doesn't even look that bad. That's what's crazy. It's not great, but it doesn't perfectly acceptable. It doesn't look bad, and the music is pretty solid.
You say like it doesn't look bad. I would say for a SNES game, it kind of does.
Well, they're doing a lot.
It looks very comic book.
Well, and to top that off, and I want to finish off with this one. So let me say really quick: the Wolverine levels are just bad.
Yeah,
and even worse. And even it's like you extend your claws out with a button because he's Wolverine. It doesn't do anything, but it's Wolverine. I appreciate that. He doesn't always have his claws out. He has his claws out when he's going down to business. So you start the level and you go boop, because who doesn't want to do that? And that his levels are just clown-filled bullshit. Literally clown-filled bullshit. And then you have my favorite X-Man, my favorite mutant, Gambit.
Yeah.
His level is just... It's impossible.
It's not a bullet hell, it's just hell.
It's just hell. It's not a bullet hell, it's just hell. There's so many enemies... You're like right out of the gate. You're running. It's not an auto scroller, but it is an auto scroller because if you stop, you die.
Yeah.
And the most bullshit thing of his level is you have a deck of cards. Because Gambit throws cards. He can make anything explode. He can weaponize anything. But classically, he uses cards and a staff, except he doesn't use a staff in this. He just uses cards. And you can run out of your deck of cards. You can throw all your cards away.
Yep. And as a fan of the character and fellow Cajun, what really pissed me off is that they fucked up his name. Like, in the game, his name is listed as Remy Boudreaux, and his name is Remy LeBeau.
No, it's Boudreaux now.
No.
So, say in the Spider-Man levels, I picked the second Spider-Man level. I guess the first real Spider-Man level, since it just starts off with I started the level, and I immediately turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much chaotic bullshit with just, like, the whole... And at one point, this is pretty impressive how they do it, because it's not like it wasn't unheard of, but the way they executed it was very good. There's a lot of, like, layering and parallax effect with the backdrop and then the foreground and all of that. And it gives you a nice sense of depth of what's just kind of the scape of the level. Like, it makes it feel bigger and more full than it is versus a super generic side-scrolling platformer. However, it also makes it a headache to play. Like, just looking at the level and moving through it is super bad, and it was bad to the point that I was just like, I'm not even going to make a legit attempt at this one. Mm-hmm. To boot, so when you start off, Spider-Man shoots webs. This in the opening stage, Spider-Man shoots webs. And you're like, okay, so you can fling webs. That's fine, web balls. Then when you get to Cyclops stage, he can shoot at angles. Spider-Man can't shoot at angles.
Yeah.
Why? Why can the Cyclops shoot at angles, but Spider-Man can't? Like, did they design the character? They designed Spider-Man first and foremost, and then decide to add X-Men? Then somebody was like, hey, buddy, by the way, did you know that we can do your in-between cardinal directions? And they're like, oh, shit, are we going to make the entire game like that? No, we were doing Cyclops. This is like the last thing we're doing right now. Well, don't fix it. It costs too much money.
The only development notes I have on it are, according to somebody at Software Creations, development was fraught with problems. Quote, Spider-Man and X-Men started going horribly wrong, and Acclaim was screaming at us and threatening litigation, and we ended up with 3 teams on this one game. That's the only notes I have on the development. But it's just, it was clearly a get something out to, trick people into spending money. Like, that's all it was.
No, straight up.
Did they just say to each team, right, Team A, you fuck up this character. Team B, you fuck up this one. Because, I mean, like, Ryan, you said your favourite's Gambit. Stephen, I know your favourite's Spider-Man. My favourite's Wolverine. And they fucked all of us over.
All of them. And, like, Storm is a fine character. I like Storm fine. She's in the top 10 for me. Fucked her up, too.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. Maybe the second level isn't in the water. Why would you start out with that?
I don't know. Like, I know there's a whole narrative behind it because obviously it was adapted from the comics. But just, like, this could have been so much better. Like,
and it's not, because it's not like the Super Nintendo was lacking in power. There's a shitload of excellent games on the Super Nintendo that push graphical limits of the system and still play smoothly and have lots of mechanics. You just played Super Metroid.
Yeah. Like especially in 1992, there was plenty they could do with it.
They just were trying to squeeze something out, and it was a bad time. And honestly, and here's the worst part. This wasn't like it was one of the better things that LJN had kicked out. I don't think they've made a good game, but they've made better games.
Mm-hmm.
And they still just shit the bed with it. And it does feel like it was on purpose. It feels like this was intentional.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know why they would do that, but they did that.
Yeah, screw this game.
It's super bad. Like, there's just straight up no excuse for it.
I paid money for it as well.
So, yeah, it's a bad Oh, bad time.
Yep.
Oh, well. But with bad games being a thing of the past, at least bad Marvel games, no, I take that back. I haven't heard great things about the new Avengers game. With LJN being a thing of the past,
May they rot.
yeah, and may God have zero mercy on their soul. Good games include Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I didn't know that this counted as retro. It was actually, I think you were the one who suggested it, Stephen.
Yes, because this is another one I discovered with my family. My this time on my mom's side, we rented the PS2 version, and we liked it so much that we bought it, and then later found out that the PS2 version is a stripped down version of it, that the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii versions actually had more content. So eventually we picked up the Wii version, and then I got my hands on the Xbox versions, and now I have the remaster versions that were released on Xbox One. But yeah, I've been playing this game for a long time. It was part of my family's never-ending quest to find Diablo clones, which, I mean, this kind of fits into that category.
Oh, it's just kind of the isometric.
Yeah, the isometric 4 players beating stuff up kind of thing. Like it filled that niche, and it's just, it's a good game, and I really liked the story and the wealth of characters, which was then expanded with DLC, at least on the Xbox side of it. One of the things I liked the most is different characters would interact with scenes in different ways. So, if you, for example, came across Winter Soldier and you had Captain America in your party, you'd see unique dialogue. If you ran into Bullseye with Daredevil or Elektra in your party, you'd see unique dialogue. So that was cool. I don't know if you guys saw that when you were playing.
Oh yeah,
well, I did see. Bullseye did mention that he is sorry that Daredevil wasn't there.
Yeah.
When I fought him, so I figured, if Daredevil was there, he would have said something different.
Yeah, he does. Now, the really interesting thing, as far as that goes, is the DLC. There's 2 packs, one for heroes, one for villains. The villains pack adds Magneto, Sabretooth, Venom, and Doctor Doom as a playable character. Doctor Doom is the big bad of this game. That's revealed 30 seconds in. If you go to fight Doctor Doom with Doctor Doom, there's a funny little scene that happens. I haven't done it myself yet, but I've looked into it, and it's just a funny little scene.
How do the hub world interactions work if you're playing as, say, Doctor Doom?
That I'm not sure, because I haven't really dealt with the villains too much in the game. I need to go try that now. The only one I knew for sure was the final fight had the funny scene. I'll have to go check that out. But so the villain pack is Magneto, Sabretooth, Venom, and Doctor Doom. The heroes is Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Hawkeye, and Hulk. And then the 2 characters that were exclusive to 360, PS3, and Wii are Colossus and Moon Knight. This introduced me to a lot of characters I didn't know about, like Moon Knight, and I think this was actually my introduction to Deadpool. So it is kind of a cool game for that. It's just, you got to actually know who's in what version, especially once you get down to like the PSP version, which has exclusive characters, and the Game Boy Advance version obviously has less characters and a completely different gameplay. What did you guys think? Like, I love this game. I didn't even need to play it for this, but I did anyway.
I also didn't play it for this because I'd spent so many hours on it back on the 360, which is, I thought it was a 360 game. Didn't realize it was the generation before. It's very solid. You have your team. It's easy to swap around. The environments are usually pretty clear as to where you have to go. It controls very smoothly. You can level up all of your heroes however you want. You can level them all up, or you can start leveling up very specific ones. and really just max the shit out of them. They get really strong.
Oh,
A couple of
yeah.
them do. Like Colossus turns into an absolute goddamn monster.
Right.
And I want to say that oddly enough, Nick Fury does too.
Oh yeah, he gets
Like
really good.
he gets really strong because he has some really solid range attacks. But one of my favorite things is going through areas. You put together a team and you go start just talking to people. Like you mentioned how certain enemy interactions with certain characters, like if you have them in your team or if you don't have them in your team, you'll get different dialogue. There's a shitload of dialogue in this game because there is a lot of generic, but they wrote tons and tons of special dialogue for different characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the opening area, because I want to say it's not the opening area, it's like the second area, maybe, when you fight Arcade. Speaking of Arcade, he's a villain that you have to fight in here. I pulled up the quote. I couldn't remember the entire quote, but when you roll into Murder World, which also is where you fight in the LJN game, is you fight Arcade and Murder World. If Deadpool's in your party, he says, "Hello, Deadpool. Are you ready for a fun-filled day in Murder World?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've got my sunscreen on. I'm taking motion sickness pills, so let's go." "Oh, I don't think you understand. You're going to die here." "I know. Carnivals always slay me." "No, you're going to physically die." Yeah, Deadpool just has he has some of the best dialogue in the game because, like, you have moments where you'll get health, or you have moments where your character will say, like, if you level up, your character will say something. Yeah. If you're at critical health, your character might say something. But Deadpool will just talk a lot. He's the Murph with a mouth. Like, everybody will say certain things when things happen. Deadpool, I'm confident, says it a lot more.
Yeah, so my favorite line from Deadpool is when he levels up and says, "Now I'm better at doing whatever it is Wolverine does."
Yeah.
Oh, when you're almost dying, he says, "I'm low on health, but full of vitamin C."
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had Deadpool in my party quite a lot early on. This is actually the first time that I've played this game. I picked it up on PS2. I thought that was the only version, actually. So I picked it up on PS2. And yeah, I had a hell of a lot of fun with it. I got as far as like the mission where you go to Mandarin. And then I found out that there was a remastered version. So I thought, okay, I'd rather get that. Then I found out that the remastered version isn't available because, as we mentioned earlier on with like Scott Pilgrim, the license ran out. So you can't actually buy the remastered version on like digital storefronts, and it wasn't available on physical. So
yeah.
Luckily, I was able to find a shady-looking site selling keys, so I was able to buy the PS4 version. But those keys are kind of finite. Yeah. They're not going to be releasing any more keys, so once they're gone, you're not going to be able to play the remastered version of this game, which is a shame. But I did manage to find it, so I got the PS4 version, and I played up to about the same point on the PS4 version as I did on PS2, except this time I did it with a full team of X-Men, which I couldn't do on PS2 because there's only like 3 X-Men available in the starting lineup. You get Wolverine, Iceman, and Storm, but the remastered version you also get Colossus and Cyclops. So I chucked Colossus in the team because I find it's helpful to have like one of the heavy characters because you have a lot of those shielded enemies and they're a pain in the ass to deal with because you've got to get behind them. But with your heavier characters, you can one-shot them with your powers. So I originally had the Thing when I was playing on PS2, and he was like one-shotting the shield guys. I just switched to him whenever I needed to deal with them. And then I kind of like did the same thing like on Colossus on the PS4 version. So it's kind of like
Not
useful
only
to have
that,
around.
but one of the other things that's really cool about the game is when you're on your team select screen, every hero, it gives you a rundown of their powers. And a lot of times their powers are actually factors in things. Like there are certain things in the game, like environmental puzzles you need to get through that require somebody with super strength. There are things you need someone that can fly or teleport. And usually those are optional upgrades, but the super strength stuff, you actually need those to progress through the level.
Well, and that's nice because obviously your team has 4 people on it.
Right.
So it's very easy to, it encourages you to build a balanced team. And when you're building a balanced team, there's actually different perks if you assemble the right heroes together.
Right. So if there's I believe there's an X-Men perk, there's an Avengers perk.
I think there's a Fantastic Four perk.
Yeah. Like there's a bunch of those that are just, canonical teams in the Marvel Universe that you get bonuses for if you've assembled them as your team.
Yeah, and it's not just like team based as well. There are kind of like I think there's like elemental ones.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a bunch of people that all kind of like use the same elemental stuff, and I looked at like an entire list of them, and there's a lot of different combinations that give special bonuses. I'm like a big X-Men fan, so I wanted like a full X-Men team.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. It's not necessarily just 4 characters. Like with the X-Men, if you assemble only X-Men together, there's lots of X-Men in the game. But if you assemble all of them in any combination, you still get the X-Men bonus.
And you can get their classic costumes as well. First thing I did on PS4, I just killed enough characters on Wolverine to get his classic costume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because it's so much better than the costume that you start out the game with.
Yeah, it's kind of garbage.
Well, because the game starts off trying to go for the X-Men movie Logan look, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, with the white shirt.
Yeah, with the jeans and the tank top.
But yeah, so Matt, if you really enjoyed this, I would highly recommend the X-Men Legends games because they're the same thing, but just X-Men.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, the X-Men Legend, I believe, is kind of hard to get your hands on, but it's not impossible. It's not even like super expensive. Not the last time I looked.
It's just
wait a minute.
not common.
I could be wrong about how expensive it is. It's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
You're looking at, there's one for $40. And there's no way to get these digitally either.
They're PS2 only.
X-Men Legends was also Xbox.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to and GameCube as well.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's one disc only, $11 on GameCube, $25 for GameCube for X-Men Legends 2. You can get it on PC for $60 for a box set. $30 for X-Men Legends on PlayStation 2. It's not too bad. I guess it just depends on how complete it's going to be. Or, according to eBay, you can get it for $33 if you have an N gauge.
No one has an N gauge. No, I mean I'm happy with Ultimate Alliance for now. Like I think I paid about just over £10 for the PS2 version, and I paid $15 for the PS4 version, but that was 1 and 2. That was like a bundle.
Oh, nice. And I never played the second one, but I always heard it was good.
Yeah, the second one specifically was adapting Civil War. So I haven't played it myself, but it's supposedly decent. I've heard it wasn't as good as the first one, but the first one is really good.
Yeah, and I've heard that 3 is pretty good too, and maybe I'll pick it up sometime on my Switch.
So there are 29 possible team combinations.
Wow.
For bonuses, and as far as I can tell, there's one of them that you actually have to have specific costumes for to get the bonus because it's based on alternate identities.
Yeah, so you have a lot of variety then if you want to kind of like get some of these bonuses.
Oh yeah. And even more variety to the game. Like it's like, oh yeah, they're doing this and there's stuff. different costumes have different perks. It's not just cosmetic. Like the amount of customization in the game is like it's like a Rubik's cube of possibilities.
And that was one of the reasons it appealed to us so much, was just the level of depth there was in the game, and you could come back to it and play it differently and get
completely differently.
I mean, it's largely the same experience, but it would feel just a little different, which was enough.
Like, well, I mean, it's the same with any dungeon crawler. Like, you're going to go through, like, okay, the dungeons remain the same, but if I'm going to build my characters up completely, and in this case, you're building your team up differently, you're going to have a wildly different experience. Now, if you only play like your melee characters, like if you play around with more Black Panther, Colossus, your super strength, the Thing, stuff like that, Hulk, you're going to have a very similar experience. But as long as you're playing around with your different classes, I guess you could say that those are your classes or the different major perks. Yeah, it's super crazy. And being up to 4-player co-op.
Again, that's one of the things that appealed to us is, 4-player co-op, that it works really well. From what I can tell, it works well in all the versions. I don't think there's been any kind of significant drop-off for any of the other versions. And the main gameplay difference between them all is the Wii version has some motion controls for stuff. So instead of a button combination for special moves, you have motion controls.
Did it have the mind your surroundings and break the TV and vase move? Flail madly?
No, it was just like push forward, pull back, up, down, left, right. But a lot of times, in the process of trying to go left, you would go right because you would go right to swing back to go left.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was that kind of thing.
Oh no!
So how does the Wii version work on the Kraken fight when you've got the QTE?
Probably badly.
I don't remember. Probably a wiggle. Like, I'm willing to bet it's a waggle kind of thing. It's been so long since we did that, I'm honestly not sure.
That fight annoyed me because it's kind of fiddly. It's like up to that point, the bosses aren't that bad. You can kind of just wail on them. You can use your powers on them, but that one you actually have to use tactics.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. The Wii version was fine from what I remember. It's just, like I said, little nitpicky things. And I mean, honestly, I would recommend the remastered versions, but they're kind of hard to get.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had grabbed them when they were, available.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you search enough, you can probably find some digital key sellers. Like I said, I was able to find one on like the third page of Google after searching. I was able to find one selling one, but that is kind of the issue with the digital marketplace. One day the games can just be gone, and sometimes they come back, like Scott Pilgrim and the Deadpool game, but sometimes they don't. We have no idea if the current Disney Fox merger means that we will see Marvel Ultimate Alliance come back.
Yeah, there's no telling. And one of the big things is that the contract issues can also screw up physical versions, because if you buy a physical version of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, it does not come with the DLC, and you would have to download it from the Xbox Live Marketplace.
Yes.
Which, in that time period between its initial coming off the marketplace and going back up, it was completely unavailable. So the physical gold version was worthless because you couldn't access the DLC. I think they brought it back when they renewed the contract for the remastered version, but now it's gone again.
Which is weird, because you'd think if you had gotten the gold version, the DLC would have been on the disc.
Right?
Because, okay, so, like, example, don't tell anybody. Back in the day, my brother, was it my brother? I think it was my brother. He picked up a copy of Borderlands Game of the Year edition.
Mm-hmm.
It came with a second disc that had all of the Borderlands DLC, and you just installed it. You didn't run that disc. You just put that disc in, and you installed it, and then you took that disc out and put it back, and then you ran the primary game disc.
Right.
And it didn't require a check. It would run off of any Borderlands disc.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any sort of coding, so I never bought the Borderlands DLC. My brother just handed over the DLC disc, and I installed it. And then and that was it. So for as long as that's installed on my 360, actually I think I have a new 360 now, so I think it's the same 360. As long as that is installed on my 360, I'll never have to buy it. Now, if I ever lose that install, it's gone. Point is, them putting, unless they were just trying to look at a way to avoid that problem, because they didn't have a workaround. They're like, if we put it on there, people can just share the DLC. They can just install it and it's there.
I don't know.
Unless they were specifically trying to avoid that problem, there was no reason for them to release a special edition disc that you still had to access the internet to use.
Right. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating because, like, you're talking about a full 8 characters that anyone who doesn't already have the game can't access.
Yep. For always. Well, and it's really kooky, too, because they announced Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and the remasters of 1 and 2.
Yeah,
you
so
can
they
still buy
that.
Ultimate Alliance 3. What the fuck happened to 1 and 2?
And the remasters came out in 2016. They were pulled off the storefronts in 2018, and Ultimate Alliance 3 came out in 2019. So they didn't even last long enough to be out at the same time as the third game.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's weird. I don't know. Maybe we'll get extra lucky and they'll release a Marvel Ultimate Alliance collection.
If they were to put this on Switch, even though I have the digital Xbox versions, I would totally shell out to have the whole thing on Switch.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a very weird. It's a very, very weird anti-consumer stunt.
Well, it's Activision and Marvel. Like, this has happened before. Like, this is the second time it's happened with these games specifically. The difference is the first time around, they were released, physical for the most part, and this time around they were all digital. So, like, I can still go track down a Wii copy or a PS2 copy or a PSP copy, but these remastered versions were digital only.
I think it was the same thing with the first edition of the Deadpool game. I think that was digital.
The first release of Deadpool was both, I think.
Yeah, they were Deadpool, like physical copies of Deadpool were getting pulled off of store shelves.
And then they released the next gen version, the ultimate version or whatever they called it, in both physical and digital. But I think that one has since been pulled too.
I believe it also has, like, if you own it, you can still download it and play it, but you can't. Like, I want to say the original Deadpool, like, if you bought it and you didn't have it installed, that was it. It was gone.
Yeah.
But that had to do more with, like, some really weird licensing issues because a company was involved and there was a huge ordeal with that.
Well, I think, I want to say, does High Moon maybe not exist anymore?
That might be what it is. I will tell you that while it's a highly sought-after game, especially like the PS3 360 editions, Deadpool's only okay. It's not bad. It's okay. It's a game.
I mean, I haven't played it myself. I've watched a friend play it. The cutscenes and the gags and stuff is the good part of the game. The gameplay is just okay.
The gameplay, yeah, it's just sort of run and gun, a bit of brawler.
Yeah, it's bog standard action with the same line being thrown out over and over again.
Yeah, nothing impressive. Just it's not disappointing. It's just not impressive. They amped it up, and it's just like, no, you made a Deadpool game, and you did it pretty okay.
But goddamn, some of those jokes were good.
Oh, there's really good. Like when you just get to slap the shit out of Wolverine.
Yeah,
good stuff. Anyway, Limited editions suck. Limited releases, whether they be intentional or not, suck. So
Yeah.
figure your shit out, Nintendo, and Activision. Maybe figure your shit out.
Yeah, I know. I highly recommend Marvel Ultimate Alliance to anyone that has even a passing interest in Marvel, because like I said, like this game introduced me to characters like Moon Knight and Black Panther and Deadpool, characters that have now become huge names aside from Moon Knight. This game has a lot of cool stuff, and there's a lot of extra information in there. Like when you're in the hub area, you can do like a little trivia game in each of the four or five acts, and that actually has a lot of information about the heroes, like the name of the building the Fantastic Four operate out of, what was Jarvis's job before he worked for Mr. Stark, and stuff like that. Like there's a whole lot of stuff you can learn about these characters, either through the trivia thing or by talking to them and all this stuff. Like you can learn a lot about the Marvel universe, at least as it existed in 2006, just by playing this game.
Yeah, and that hub actually impressed me quite a lot, because obviously you've got like your main missions, which you go out on, like your little mini dungeon things, but you've also got like these missions in the hub as well that kind of like take place over the course of several missions. Like they'll say, like in your next mission, Hank Pym needs this item, or Jarvis needs this, or what have you, and you have these little side stories just going on in the hub at the same time as you're doing your main missions, which I was quite impressed by.
Yeah. There's at least one mission that spans over most of the game, that you started in that initial bit in the helicarrier, and it goes on until like Act 4.
Is that the Black Widow subplot?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's like extra bonus side quests in all the missions, and like at the end of the game, the Watcher sits there and tells you, this is what you did, this is the outcome of that.
I was going to ask, what are the comic book missions? I picked up a couple comic books in the levels, but I didn't actually get around to playing them.
From what I remember, they are how you unlock some of the final costumes. Let me see.
Because I know I picked up a Wolverine one, and I think I might have picked up a Spider-Man one.
So scoring a bronze or better reward in each comic mission rewards you with Silver Surfer as a playable hero. So that's fun. And if you get the bronze on the mission for that hero, you unlock their fourth outfit.
Oh, cool.
So there's all of that. I don't remember what the outfit is.
How do you actually access those comic book missions?
There's a console in the hub that you can access it from. So like there's the trivia console. There's another one that accesses the comic book missions. The bonus missions you can find are things like, is Jack Thompson his name? The one that's always after the X-Men? The senator? I don't remember his name, but that guy is being held captive in Murder World, and you can save him. And if you do, like the Watcher tells you that he stops going after mutants and starts like actively trying to work with them. So like those bonus missions, you don't actually see the outcomes in game, but the outcomes described significantly change the Marvel universe from that point. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think the whole game as a whole, like the whole concept of how it works and plays, it is just probably one of the best depictions of the Marvel universe in a video game that I've personally played. I mean, I've not played a hell of a lot of Marvel games, but to have that kind of scope, the amount of characters that they've got, and have all these like interweaving storylines, it just seems like really that's kind of the way you want to go with a Marvel game.
And I mean, all the different things you do, like, you go to Atlantis, you go to Mephisto's realm, you go to Murder World, you go to Valhalla, spoiler alert, you go to space. Like,
Yeah, what the fuck is because you go to space and you get to you don't talk to Black Bolt, obviously. He doesn't do a whole lot of talking.
yeah,
But whatever their colony is with the Inhumans
yeah,
and their base is on the moon. But then you also go to space because you go and fight the Skrull or fight and spoiler alert, there's Galactus at one point, and it's crazy. You go all over. They really capture the scope of the Marvel Universe.
yeah. It does a great job, and it feels like a good progression. It finds a way to make a jump from Galactus to Doctor Doom not feel weird.
Well, and another thing, when you fight Galactus, is they do a good job in not downplaying how powerful Galactus is. Because it would be one thing for it's like, oh yeah, 4 superheroes just go and they fight Galactus. Well, like, no, you're there. Really, it's Silver Surfer who's fighting Galactus. And not so much fighting him as is just holding him off long enough to make him go, I'm out of here.
Right. It's not you beat him up and throw him in jail. It's you hold him off long enough that he gets bored and wanders off.
Yeah. You are annoying enough to him that he just doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's important with fights like that where it's not like, oh yeah, see how powerful it is. Like, no, you have to keep everything scaled appropriately, and the game did a good job of trying to keep everything scaled appropriately.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
And all the playable characters feel really balanced. Like, there's no this is the optimal team. There is no, you have to use these characters because they're the best ones. You can turn any of these characters into that top tier level fight.
That's kind of important that they're able to do that, because people go in, they want to play with their favorite characters. There shouldn't be an issue with saying one of your favorite characters is shit and you need to swap it out with someone else more optimal. People want to play with. I mean, it might be different on normal difficulty, but I play through on easy difficulty because I'm shit at games, and I had no problems whatsoever with the team makeup. Like once I was on PS4, I went with a specific team because I wanted an X-Men team, but on PS2, I kept switching it up with different characters, and I had no issues whatsoever. Yeah.
When my family would play, each of us would pick like 3 heroes that we would cycle through. So we'd still have, the 4 of us making a team, but we would each cycle characters, and they would all be just as effective.
Yeah, I mean, like the only constant in my party on PS2 was Wolverine, and everyone else just got swapped out when I felt like swapping them out.
Right.
Yeah, now as you get pretty deep into the game, you start realizing, no, I've got to kind of stick with a handful, not necessarily 4, but you got to stick with a controlled handful of heroes. Usually the ones that you figure out you like playing with the best, but that's just because you can't level up everybody evenly. There's too many heroes. And the game does get harder for you. Maybe not so much on easy, it's not quite as punishing, but when you're playing on normal or even hard, the game's just like, yeah, you better pick your team and stick with them because they need to be maxed out by the end or you're going to have a real bad time.
Right.
But you can also just turn around and grind it out.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, I should have been playing with Black Panther this entire time. So you go back and run through old stages and you grind out Black Panther. You feed him all of the experience points.
So the unlockable characters is one of my few gripes with the game because Daredevil and Black Panther are both locked when you start, as well as Ghost Rider, Blade. There's a few others. I think Spider-Woman's available from start, but there's a bunch of them that are locked when you start, and you have to unlock them as you play through the game, and they're kind of evenly sprinkled throughout. Daredevil and Black Panther in particular, you have to collect 5 little figures of them to unlock them, and those are spread throughout the game, so you get them towards the end of the game. So if you really wanted to use them, you then have to do that and go back and grind them up because you haven't had them.
Yeah,
and
you haven't had them.
That's one of my only beefs is if there's a character you really want that's really late in the game, it kind of hurts you. Like, you get Ghost Rider like halfway through. And, that's not too bad, but it'd be nice to have him earlier, but it makes sense why you get him when you do.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a decade since I've played, but isn't there a Game Plus?
I believe so.
There is, I remember reading the manual.
Yeah, so like once you've beat it the first time, you can go through into the next game and already have everyone unlocked. In fact, I think you have to beat the game to unlock Nick Fury. After you complete the game on normal or easy, you unlock Nick Fury.
Did you mention, I think it was you who mentioned it, that one of the versions has got Scarlet Witch?
Oh, yeah, so the PC version is a whole different animal. Let me see if I can pull that up.
I don't want to buy a third version of the game to play it, but she would absolutely go in Cyclops' place in my X-Men team.
Nobody likes Cyclops.
No.
So let me just read this off. The PC version is customizable, and many characters, including those exclusive to all other versions, and their modifications can be obtained from community sites for play within the game. The PC version's graphics vary depending on customization of user settings. PC version also features intuitive mouse controls and works with a gamepad. A number of custom characters, including Jean Grey, Psylocke, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Vision, Dazzler, and Punisher, are available. That's the brief on the PC version. I've never dealt with it, so I don't know what the deal is.
Plus, getting a hold of the PC version will be very difficult, I think. It's no longer on Steam. Again, it's kind of like trying to find like a shady key seller somewhere.
Or an old disc from 2006. If it was even available back then.
Right. Such a shame. What's super great about this game as a whole, this will be my closing comment on this, is that it was not just welcoming to people who weren't even really familiar with Marvel. It was welcoming to people who were unfamiliar with this game and its genre as a whole. If you weren't into dungeon crawlers, this was an introduction to the dungeon crawler feel. If you weren't into RPGs, it was light enough on the RPG elements to not be overwhelming, but it had enough RPG element with customizing your characters and putting together your teams and all of that, and setting your move sets and managing your upgrade points, that it could pull you into that, and you could get. Then there's games that were way bigger into that. Obviously, I think Legends predates this game by like a year or two, but that went under the radar. Where this game obviously spawned 2 more sequels.
This game directly spawned out of the X-Men Legends games.
Yeah.
Like, those came first, and they took that formula and said, hey, let's put the entire Marvel universe on it, and they did, and it worked.
And like you said, and then when you go into the Marvel universe, as far as what is the lore behind this game, well, if you may not be familiar with characters, but everybody to some degree who plays video games is going to be slightly familiar with comic books. They're going to know who Spider-Man is. They've probably seen Wolverine around. So you have just enough information to catch your interest, and then they dump lots of information on you, the game, but not enough to be nerdy, overwhelming, reading all of the books in Skyrim level. Right. Just enough to inform you enough to know enough about the characters that you can then that will pique your interest to learn more, maybe go try different games, maybe get into the media. And it's just enough information to catch your attention so you want to know more what's going on. The gameplay is not complicated, so it's inviting to people who might not be particularly great at video games, but it's not so monotonous and boring that you're like, there's not enough going on in this game. I don't want to play this.
Exactly.
Like, it is just the right amount of video game for literally everybody.
it was a lightning in a bottle. They managed to hit all those different things and do it in such a way that it wasn't patronizing. It wasn't like, you gotta know everything to do this. It was, hey, you want to play a game? We got a game.
We have a game for you to play. And I really feel like most people would enjoy this game. Not everybody, most people. And it had the option. I don't like playing games with other people. You don't have to. I like playing games with my friend. Then get your friends over and play a game with them.
Yeah. Originally, I was going to suggest that we try to link up and play this online. And then that was when I found out that it wasn't listed anymore.
Yeah, it's gonzo. And that's a shame.
Yeah, because this would be a super fun game for us to just hop on a stream and play through.
Because but as Matt pointed out, you can pick up physical copies for, even if you're going to miss out on some of the DLC, you can still pick up the base game for pretty cheap.
Yeah, just over £10 I paid for the PS2.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap. I mean, and on like Xbox, it was coming pre-packaged with Xbox 360s and stuff like that. So
the only version of it that's missing anything is the PS2. Well, okay, the PS2 and the PSP, but the PSP also has exclusive characters. So there's that. I highly recommend tracking down the PS3 360 versions. Honestly, the Wii version is not bad, and it's pretty easy to get a hold of.
If you're in the UK, then there will be a PS2 version going up on eBay quite shortly. Because just because I've got the PS4 version now, I don't need.
There's no reason
the
to own
PS2. Yeah.
I mean, and that was the same thing I did. The last time I did a big game trade was I traded in my Xbox copy of Alliance and 360 copy of Alliance 2 because I have the remasters. I didn't need those physical versions, even though they're cool to have on the shelf. It's one of those things where I don't absolutely need them anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm still just going to be playing them on the same system. I'm still going to be playing them on the Xbox One or the new Xbox.
Right.
Like the PSP version it's a different thing. I'm playing on a different system. That's worth having the copy of. But I don't need two copies.
Only real fans play the Game Boy Advance version.
Right? Yeah, I've never played the Game Boy Advance version.
I might try to hunt it down if it pops up at one of my local game shops.
I've never even seen a copy of it.
Not in the wild.
I'm
curious as to how it plays. I might fire up my RetroPie later on and take a look at that.
The side-scrolling beat-em-up style, from what I understand. Side-scrolling fighting game with minor RPG elements. Graphics simplified for the system. A selection of characters have been reduced. Additional gameplay modes were included.
Nice.
Teams for this port are 3 characters. 3 characters, a striker, and a non-playable 4th character who can be summoned to perform an extra attack directed towards on-screen enemies. So they took Marvel vs. Capcom and integrated it into the Game Boy Advance version of Ultimate Alliance. That's hilarious.
Outstanding. Good stuff. Anyway, if that's all we got to say about that, and
yeah, I think we're about done there.
Yeah. I think we'll take a real quick break and have our closing thoughts here.
And now I'm better at doing whatever it is Wolverine does.
So we're back, and not a whole lot more to say here. Marvel games, should you play them? Sometimes. Stay away from the old ones. They don't exist. They're bad. If it says LGN, you stay away. If you really don't believe us, go watch. I think the AVGN actually has like an episode dedicated to LJN. He ramps it up a lot because that's his gag. But they are legitimately terrible.
And if you still don't believe after that, if we're in the UK, it's going to be going up on eBay soon.
Yeah, like I had no idea who LGN was. I've never watched AVGN, so like learning there's a whole bunch of other games that did this to people, I'm not happy.
I'll go ahead and I'll link that episode. I'll
Yeah,
find that episode and I'll link it up on Twitter.
It is not a game I'm willing to have in my collection, and I own NES Turtles on cartridge.
So I will probably still keep this one because the copy I have I got from a friend. So I'm not gonna get rid of it, but I'm gonna put it in the case and it will never again see the light of day.
Put it on the shelf of shame.
Yeah.
But other than that, I guess it's we're wrapped up here. Hope everybody who may be listening on time if this month has a good October. Stay safe. I know this whole pandemic is still hitting certain parts of the world pretty hard. We wish good health and safety to everybody. And with that, I guess it's goodbye.
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 Oh, let me guess. The last season of Star Trek was a disaster. No, let me finish.